Welcome into the Landon Tengwall Show, brought to you by Hoover. Shout out Will Hoover and the entire Hoover crew for bringing you this video. Today, I am joined by the one and only producer, Jesse. Jesse, how are we doing today?
It's day 52. We've been doing better, but we're keeping the journey. Just got to keep going, chugging along.
Can I just get your overall thoughts on the fumbling of Kalani Sitake and how this all went down, especially from you kind of having the national perspective?
Yeah, let's just start with the baseline of this Penn State head coaching search has been all over the place. It has been over here, up here, down here. No one's really had a really great sense of what's going on. I think it all sort of leads back to Pat Kraft's idea, once he fired James Franklin, was to bring in Matt Rule. That did not happen, and there was no plan B, C, or D. That was Marcus Freeman, the Kalen DeBoers, the home run swings. And that's essentially what I think Kalani Sitake boils down to was, hey, there's a lot of good coaches out there. And he clearly wanted what would be perceptionally a home run hire. So he looked all around. He got a bunch of no's, got a bunch of people raises. So you get to Kalani Sitake, and that name starts popping up like almost out of the blue. You hear some reports that, oh, they've been negotiating for the last month or so. Okay, if that's a guy you really had planned on getting, the fit was always a bit of a question. I mean, he's never coached east of the Rocky Mountains. But you look at what he did at BYU, and yeah, that sort of team profile, team identity, the smash mouth football. He's a charismatic coach. He's a good football coach. So all that stuff sort of lines up. But once the Sitake news came out, you're like, really? Like, that really feels like you're trying to go in and steal a BYU letterman, a guy coaching at his alma mater, a place that's really near and dear to him. And you saw the outpouring of support that the BYU community did as soon as that news sort of just began to leak. Everyone's just like, no, I mean, crumble cookies, the Church of the Latter-day Saints. Everyone just came out of the woodworks and just like, no, we're not letting you get this guy. And all Pat Kraft did was go over there, fly over to Provo, get a handshake deal, and come back. And at that point, he was so confident that this was going to get done that there was no extra added on process of making sure that, hey, I need to make sure 110%. Like, you get that guy to sign when you're there. Everyone knows that if you're going to go somewhere, you have to get something signed. He leaves with a handshake deal. And so the fit was always a little bit of a question, but warmed up to it. I mean, you saw some of the hype videos he had. Like I said, really charismatic coach. But now you look at it, and like I said, 52 days in, we were outside of UCLA, and you would say at all UCLA aside, we were the first major job to open. And so you've had the longest runway to plan stuff out. And all that's happened is we still don't have a head coach. Today is National Signing Day. Right now, our recruiting class has 4 players. Don't know if any of them are going to sign. And we are in the 120s to 130s. Like, we're by Akron. Harvard is above us in the recruiting rankings. So there's a lot to be sort of worried about in the short term. Obviously, finding a coach, paramount most, but also you got to find a GM. Like, this whole process has just been ass backwards.
I have a question. Do you think when he missed on Matt Rule and he decided, okay, I missed on Rule, like, I got to swing for the fences, do you think he messed up by doing that and not saying, all right, we're just going to secure a guy like Chesney or, a lower level. Now we're sitting here and we'll talk about the options that are in front of Pat Kraft right now. But do you think he messed up trying to just hit a home run?
So if you're a baseball player and you're going to face a pitcher, you kind of know what time you can take a home run swing based on the count, based on the situation. A lot of variables are at play in taking a home run swing. But you don't fire James Franklin in the middle of the season if you don't already know who your home run swing is, or if not, your other factors. So the fact that he thought Matt Rule was his home run swing, okay, it didn't work out for whatever reasons. There's maybe some stuff behind the scenes that really have impacted that. We don't need to get into it too much. But not having, like, he got Jimmy Sexton mad. Like, this is one of the things I think people don't really realize. Like, there are certain people you do not piss off in college football. Jimmy Sexton is probably at the top of that list. So the firing of James Franklin, who is a Jimmy Sexton client, almost set him off. Like, that's the reason you saw James Franklin get on game day and Saban start tripping him. And Franklin gets this sort of carpet rolled out from being like, hey, we'll make sure that your exit is not as bad as, like, we all thought that Pat Kraft was trying to hit the eject button on James Franklin to pull up the plane. In fact, all that's happened over the last 2 months is that James Franklin hit the eject button and has watched the Penn State plane sort of go down. And now he's soft parachuted Landon to Virginia Tech. And that is a better situation right now than what we're in. So, yes, to get back to your original question, he made a miserable mistake in going for a home run swing because he didn't have a home run swing. He didn't have a pitch to hit that would have resulted in a home run. Though that setup factor was never there. Those relationships were never there. So when you look at the entirety of what's going on here, Pat Kraft could have gotten a guy like Matt Campbell. I'll continue to beat that drum. Great football coach. He could have gotten a Jeff Brom right away. Like there's certain guys who are really good football coaches. Are they the flashy, sexy hire? Probably not. But we're back at square one now, 52 days later. You could have already had all that stuff ironed out. And so, yes, massive mistake. There's no other way to put it. And like what he refused to do with the front office is you say something. I don't know.
That's how I feel too, Jesse. In terms of a divorce, James Franklin has won this thing tenfold. If he's the wife, they're off. He's doing Pilates, looking good, going out every night, having fun. We're fat at home, drinking beers, doing nothing. That's where we're at. Jay, I don't know if you saw Virginia Tech's signing day party. They have crumble cookies there. Yeah. And I don't think you're just getting crumble cookies at a signing day at 9 a.m. If it's not a troll job. So yeah, we're getting kicked while we're down right now. I'll tell you what. We're talking about how big of a blunder this is for Pat Kraft. What's his future? Can you keep Pat Kraft after this? I mean, he is getting just assaulted in the national media, and rightfully so. I mean, where do you go from here?
Well, I would like to say that you find someone else to run your search, but the issue is you don't have a head coach and you don't have a GM. So I've been touching on this GM thing. Let me make one statement clear. The fact that James Franklin was fired, I think October 12th, October 13th, whatever it was.
Yep, 12th.
When you knew that departure was happening, it was pretty clear to see that Andy Frank, who was our GM, was probably going to go with James Franklin. So yes, you couldn't hire a football coach at the end of the season. Guess what? You could have hired a GM. And for whatever reason, his mindset was, no, I want to hire a coach first and then a GM. It's like, no, buddy, that's backwards. You need to hire the GM because that guy can come in and start getting your roster in check, making sure your NIL is all good, making sure that your recruiting class is still working, making sure that your portal strategy is built. So that doesn't happen. But you could have gotten that guy a week after you fired James Franklin, whereas your coach, you were most likely waiting until the end of the season. So just the byproduct of waiting that long to make a GM decision is now you're feeling the long-term effects because, yeah, Pat Kraft, these are fireable offenses where we're at the Penn State head coaching search. Like on that Sunday, after the regular season concluded on Saturday, you saw Florida know exactly what it was doing. You saw Arkansas, Auburn, LSU, all these other jobs. Like Michigan State fired their coach and hired a new coach. Kentucky fired their coach and hired a new coach. And here we are. We still have no idea. Like there's some smoke here. There's some smoke there. There's an alien over on Mars that we may want to hire. Like, what are we doing? And so of all the jobs that were out there, the Penn State one was the one that was most paramount of needing a head coach on that Sunday. Because look at our recruiting class. Look, what's our portal strategy? Like our players are on Twitter saying, hey, our head coach is upstairs. What are we doing? And then so we're basically saying, Terry Smith, sorry. Thanks for helping us sort of rebound and get the team back together, but you're not a candidate for this. And guess what? That's going to piss off the guys in the locker room because they've rallied around Terry. So once he's not given the head coaching job, all you're doing is just basically saying, players, your opinions don't matter to me. I'm going to go get my guy, and we're starting from the ground level. And so players are going to leave in the portal. Like, it's fireable. Now, whether or not you have to start now going into like university politics to really figure out if that's something you can actually do. Because if you do choose to fire Pat Kraft, you now don't have any sort of operating arm other than the university president. And I do not think that she wants to get too involved with the athletics. Like that's been pretty made clear. Like she'll support it and help it and do whatever she needs to do, but she's not going to go and make sure that we have a GM and a head coach.
Yeah,
as opposed to some other university presidents would.
Right. That's why people are saying fire Pat Kraft, but you can't. Like, who is running your search if you fire Pat Kraft? And you make a good point about the GM situation. That's almost a bigger blunder at this point. Number one, it's laziness on Pat Kraft's part because he didn't get, and I get it, Andy Frank and Kevin Threlkel, who are James Franklin's, basically the GMs combined. I get that it was harder to fire them because they still handle the logistics of travel and every day, and they plan all that stuff out. They're the player personnel guys too. So it would have been harder to do that, but it was necessary because you knew those guys were attached at the hip to James. I believe Andy came with him from Vanderbilt. At least I think Kevin did too. But no matter what, they're working for James. So you allowed two guys to stay in your office for 6 weeks that are going to work for James Franklin, are actively collecting a Penn State paycheck, and you're allowing them to stay here and work for James Franklin. That's what you allowed to go on. Like, it is utterly ridiculous by Pat Kraft. This has been fumbled in so many different ways. But you're right. At least if we hired some type of GM, even though it was a Pat Kraft hire, you could probably fire Pat Kraft right now and say, all right, allow the GM to try to do this search. But you got no one else. Neely Benapudi is not going to be able to run a head coach search. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I guess, Jesse, let's talk about where we sit, realistic candidates for where Penn State is going to turn next. It is signing day. It's Wednesday. Everybody else has their head coach. Where do we go from here, and what candidates are still out there?
Well, it's funny. You go back to the original hot boards that were out there, and now you start to look at some of those names, and they're off the board. Will Stein's at Kentucky. Brian Hartline is going to USF. So the big coordinator hire swings that were potentially in play are no longer in play. So now you're going back to basically, unfortunately, what it has to be perceived as your 12th, 13th, and 14th options. And that's part of the reason why this has been fumbled so bad, is it's clear that, like, Florida didn't go through any of this. Like, yeah, Florida's top option was Lane Kiffin, but they always knew that John Summerall was their number 2, and they wouldn't got that. We're like, what option are we on? We're so far down the board that any head coach who's looking at our situation. And so I think I don't want to get too far ahead of our skis here, because there's an entire situation to sort of look at before we look at head coaches, because I think that's probably the big question here is, yeah, hey, we can look at the Matt Campbells. We can look at the Jeff Broms. We can look at a Brian Dayball potentially coming in with his connections. And I would say that's probably my top 3 right now. But is there any given that those guys want to leave their current situations? Dayball, separated because he's just got let go from the Bills. Like, this is just not a great situation right now. And this is something that we go back to when we were talking about the Franklin firing in the beginning. Is like, hey, in the pecking order right now, we were below LSU and Florida pretty clearly. And then Auburn came. We were below Auburn because all these places already had infrastructure and talent tied in. And you look at our roster right now. I don't mean to just sort of backtrack on your question, but I feel like this is sort of the basis that you need to sort of figure out the head coaching search. Is our entire roster is in flux right now. We are not going to be bringing in freshmen this year in this cycle. A program that has been traditionally built on recruiting, about 80% recruiting, 20% portal, if not a little bit more leaning towards recruiting. So now you're just skipping an entire cycle. You're having your departing seniors who are going to go, and you're going to get hit hard in the portal. Like, Franklin is going to poach some guys. Some guys are going to go to James Franklin. Some guys are some really talented guys may look at our situation and say, are we going to win 8 games next year? And that's now a more legitimate question than it was 2 months ago. So now that's going to open the door for the Vultures. The Vultures are going to come in and they're going to start saying, ooh, someone like Chaz Coleman, if we added him to our infrastructure, we can offer him as much as Penn State's going to offer him. And guess what? Like, that's a legitimate conversation that you don't really know what your makeup is, because what's your Penn State identity right now? We don't know what it is. And that's something that could get figured out once we figure out the head coach and sort of get moving along. But you got to hit the hyper warp button right now, because we are a month away from the transfer portal being open. A month away, and we don't have anything.
And guys are already getting contact. Let's be clear about that too. I mean, by the time it opens, more than half the people going in already knows where they're going. Well, more than half. I mean,
yes. We're already at the point to where the retention needs to be happening now. And who's doing that? Like, Terry Smith is trying to keep this roster together for the bowl game. But beyond that, there's no sort of long-term future or promise made that would keep a roster together. You got rid of the guy who was your GM. Like, that's the thing about firing Franklin, was you had to know what you were doing next. And it's like, hey, I understand. Like, I've been getting into fights about this on Twitter with other Penn State fans, like, oh, Franklin had to go. I'm like, I'm not disagreeing with that. It was the timing of the decision that I sort of disagreed with. We both thought that there was no way Franklin was going to get fired midseason because of the buyout and because of the other situation at hand. It happens, and yeah, great. He gets another job. We only have to pay $9 million instead of $48 million. But what we did is we gave him the runway to be able to go to his next place, poach our recruiting class, and those are bigger impact terms than losing $30 million in buyout money. So this situation that whatever coach is going to be walking into isn't going to be great. Now, all that is said with the caveat of, hey, in this next week, if you get your coach, you get your GM, and you hit your portal roulette game, there's still a massive amount of promise. I mean, that's the thing about college football right now is, yes, it's been traditionally built on recruiting, but you saw what Signetti did at Indiana. He came in, imported a class of guys, went to the transfer portal, got good coaching, and that team just sprung up. So like that is still in our range of outcomes. It just looks a lot more bleak than it did a couple of months ago. And now we're just standing here waiting on pins and needles for who's our head coach going to be. So Dayball, I think, is the guy right now. I don't know, but it changes every day. It's like we're throwing darts at a dartboard. Be like, today we're going to go here. Today we're going to go there. Here's the guy of the day today. And it's just clear that there was never a plan. And I don't know how you can be a AD at a major program and you get past your first option and it just all sort of just crumbles. And I mean that word, crumbles, in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, we're the laughing stock right now, and it's not like we're the laughing stock, and it's like, oh, we're going to be fine. I mean, we might be okay, and we are Penn State. Like, ultimately, we will be all right, but this is a true mess right now. That is the absolute truth. And I think from not only a player retention standpoint, but any assistant coaches you want to keep around, put yourself in shoes of the players or the assistant coaches. If I'm looking at someone that I know is option 14 on your head coaching list, do I want to be a part of that? Like, I got to respect that guy. Do I want to, I might like the guy if I meet him, but initially, how I'm already, perceiving him, it's like, oh, like this guy, like, I don't know if he's a winner. Like, we didn't really want him. He was our last resort, so we just went with him because we had to. That's not very motivating. And guess what? I'm not only saying that. The teams that are calling up every single one of our players and say, hey, come to us on January 2nd, they're saying the same damn thing. We got security. We'll pay you more. You know what you're going to get. We're going to win this many games. So it's looking like a full-on disaster for Penn State. I think we both do a pretty good job of not trying to go full-on panic mode. But I don't know. Pat Kraft hasn't really given us a choice to go any other direction with where we sit right now. We have been, as you said, we've had the job open the longest, and now we're still the last people at the dance right now, and we're sitting there with no one at the dance with us. So
it's like, what else can you say? Like I'm anyone who ever wants to question our Penn State fandom, you can go ahead and do that. But the reason that we're doing this, and I go on Twitter and I say stuff most specifically about Penn State, is because I care so much. And that's sort of going to be the silver lining in all this, is the fan base is the one that's getting hurt in all this. It's like, hey, Pat Kraft, James Franklin, all that stuff, it's a messy divorce. The people who are being impacted are the players and the fans. And that's the worst part of it. So no matter who the new coach is, like, yeah, he may be the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th option. We're still going to rally the crap behind him. Like, everyone's going to be like, okay, hey, now we got our guy, but now we got to go. Like, are we able to hit that go button as soon as we make that hire? And so, like, you're just waiting. Like, my wife is getting mad at me for how much time I'm spending on Twitter. And I'm like, I just need to know who the coach is. Like,
me too, brother. Me too.
Like, I need to know who this is so that I can start trying to figure out my realistic expectations for, like, hey, a Nick Marsh enters the transfer portal. All right, well, guess what? 12 preeminent programs have already reached out to him. Is there anyone from Penn State reaching out to him? Probably not. So it's like, you're already behind the eight ball. Like, that was someone you could have gotten in the recruiting cycle with James Franklin. So that's like sort of the back and forth here. Is like, I understand that we were 3-3 in a championship or bust season, but we made an emotional decision. And it was 3 bad games. It was terrible. The vibes were terrible. The mood around the program was terrible. Would it have rebounded? I don't know. But what would you rather have? Would you rather be 3-9 right now and still have James Franklin as your head coach, or be 6-6 where we're currently at?
I know. I definitely get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It would have the structure of James Franklin still being here. I guess this is where, and we normally agree on a lot of things. I'll still push back and say it was the right move to fire James when we did. I get that, and that is the hardest part, because he was the GM, because he was everything. It really messed things up. I think that 2 things can be true at once, that we should have fired him, because just the rest of the season, I think we can all go back to Northwestern and remember how toxic that was. I don't even want to think about how bad that would have gotten, and just fans would have, just the hate oozing out of them would have gotten so bad. And not to mention the players. We saw there was no fire, at least with Iowa and on. You came out and Terry had those guys playing, and that made me proud. I think you would have started to lose some of that. I feel proud to be a Penn Stater if we would have kept James, because it just would have kept going down. But I think the other side of the other piece that could be true is just Pat Kraft I've never seen a head coaching search handled worse. So, if we were to on Sunday have just gotten Chesney, we're obviously not sitting here having this conversation. I just think Pat Kraft has mismanaged this so absurdly that now we are second guessing that maybe we should have kept James Franklin to kind of rally the troops a little bit more. And if we fired him this past Sunday, things would have been a little bit more smooth, and he wouldn't have had as much time to do everything he did. I think that is all true. But yeah, it's hard to look at when Pat Kraft has just messed up this badly. And so, yeah, it hurts. It hurts. I'm angry. I'm embarrassed. Talking to other Letterman people are pissed off. And Pat Kraft needs to find some way to fix it. But who knows? Let's be optimistic, Jesse. Maybe he can hire someone and we win 9 games next year and we're feeling good. And, oh, God.
Like I said, that's in the range of outcomes. That is in the range of outcomes. And I said this before, coaching searches are like NFL draft picks. You really don't know what's going to work until you get them in. Everyone who's applauding the Alex Golesh hire at Auburn, for example, is saying, oh, that's a home run hire for them. Okay, great. I need to see results on the field. People said that about a number of other coaches like Luke Fickell, Lincoln Riley. We've seen really good hires who were made with plans go really well. And then you look at, like, people forget that Nick Saban was like, while Bama wanted to get Nick Saban said no. They went to other parts of their searches. They went to West Virginia and they went to try to get Rich Rodriguez, and they tried to go different places. And then they circled back around to Nick Saban. So the one thing that's sort of a caveat on all this, and I don't know where it's going to go. Like I said, right now, if you had to say, Jesse, who do you think the head coach is? I would lean Brian Daboll right now, which is crazy in itself because that's not a college coach coming into a situation, but Pennsylvania guy, good offensive mind. I don't think it's terrible, but he's going to have to hit the ground running in a sport that he's not familiar with. But you go back, and so you look at the coaching search overall, and I think like your Matt Campbells were there, fine. Your Jeff Brohms were there, fine. And maybe they would have been home run hires. Maybe they wouldn't have worked out. So I'm so flustered. I'm losing my train of thought. I just wish, like, we're Penn State. Like, the fact that our program is now in the dust, we set things on fire without a plan. Like, it all falls on Pat Kraft. Like, ultimately, I think he will be made the scapegoat of all this. Like, I do not foresee him being in charge of Penn State football as we go into next football season. I think that let's get the head coach hired. Let's try to figure out a GM situation. But at that point, you have to be looking at it and saying, like, you can give Kraft like a little bit more runway if you really want to, and say, hey, you got us into this mess. Either get us out in the next 6 months or you're done. I think that's probably the path that we're going to take here. But like, you have all these coaches and stuff coming out and saying, like, that's fireable offense. Like, that's all I need to hear. Like, yeah, it's just such a pathetic place to be for the program, as proud as we are, as much as we want to support the team, as good as we have been. Like, we're coming off 3 double-digit win seasons. Yeah, the 6-6 season sucked. I think we all can agree that we had much higher expectations for this year. But we have a really workable schedule next year. And if infrastructure was still in place, we would have done well. But we just stripped that all away. It's like you're going to go remodel your house and you start just pulling out everything that you have. And then you go back and you're like, oh, what do we – the wood's not right. How are we going to lay a new floor? Like, oh, the paint's a bad color. How are we going to make this look good? And then you're looking at the living room, which was once a really nice and cozy place. And now you're looking at being like, oh, this is a bit of this needs a lot of work. I have to go hire a new contractor to get this in instead of focusing in on the finer details of everything that we got to do.
Yeah. Well, we will monitor this as it continues on. Jesse, any final possibly positive things you want to leave us with?
All right, let's get positive. Still have a huge NIL war chest. Still have some talented players. We just need to find the right head coaching hire. I mean, it needs to happen soon. It needs to be quick. I guess you could say the one benefit of, I remember the point I was trying to make earlier, the one benefit of waiting this long is that you may open yourself to a potential of a head coach who misses the playoffs now, who maybe didn't think that they were going to, and they want a new coat of paint. And now that the only job open is Penn State. Now, is it enviable for them to leave a high-profile spot to go there? I don't know, but guess what? You're sort of in the running as the only team that can make a run at them. So not saying I have any inside information on that, but now that option is at least available to go pursue some guys who we're going to wait till the end of the season and maybe not make the playoff. But ultimately, hey, let's go get the head coaching hire right. Let's figure out a GM. Let's figure out a functioning front office. Let's get those two pieces in place and then see what happens. Like, you can take a portal, like portal roulette is portal roulette. You're either going to win big, you're going to break even, or you're going to lose badly. Let's hope that this head coach who comes in has the ability to identify good talent in the portal, because we're not going to get the 5 stars and the 4 stars at this. We might get some 4 stars because of the NIL money we're offering, but we're probably going to have to go and find a lot of workmen, 3-star sort of guys to help bridge this gap. And then you just got to hope that the new coach who comes in, they're going to be armed with money for a coaching staff. They are going to be armed with NIL money. And so you're playing Monopoly with a bunch of money. And I think that we still have the ability to be one of the better teams in the Big Ten because there's a clear gap there. So you have Ohio State, you have Indiana, you have Oregon. I can't say that for sure that I'm looking at any of these other teams making a big jump. USC might, Michigan might, but there's a lot of stuff going on with everyone in the Big Ten. So that room is still there for a 8-4, 9-3, even a 10-2 season when you look at our schedule. So I am very worried right now, but all it takes is a couple of the right moves and the right dominoes to fall into place. And me and you could be talking in late January saying, hey, this portal class is actually pretty good. Hey, we didn't lose the guys from our team like we thought we may. Whoever's come in has done a really good job of keeping the pieces here and together. Maybe they're able to retain Terry Smith as an important part of the staff. I don't know. All that stuff remains to be seen. So there's still a lot of variables. We still don't know everything. So still going to support, still going to be on everything that I can to try to make sure that Penn State football is going forward. And I urge everyone to do the same. Like, it's negative right now. It kind of has to be. Like, this Pat Kraft thing has been really bad. Let's get through it. We're still a proud program. We've been through worse. Some people we've been through a lot worse, and we've come out the other end. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. So we just got to keep chugging. And no matter where we are at, know that we are Penn State football. We have really good football players. Let's get the right minds and the right infrastructure in place to continue and move into the future.
Amen. Something that Pat Kraft said at his presser on October 13th. He said, we've weathered storms far worse than this. This is probably the worst storm since 2011, but we're going to weather this thing as well. Just
is there a name for a man-made storm? I don't I don't know. I would ask Josh if he were here because he knows everything about weather, but I don't know if there's a man-made storm or.
Yeah, please ask. Please ask Josh for something. We need something on that because that's great. I'm gonna look that up. Jesse, appreciate you joining us as always. Whenever we get a new head coach, I'm sure we will have you back on. So always appreciate you joining us.
We'll be super positive when that happens.
Hey, we're gonna be gung ho. It's gonna be great. We're going to continue to support Penn State. Go State. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.